What is up, everybody? It's Rebecca of Supergirl Radio. We are going to get started here in a little bit. Oh, it looks like my green screen is a little wonky. I will try. Ooh, it's getting wonkier. I'm going to try to see if I can fix that a little bit. Okay, I feel better about that. Morgan, are you there?
I'm here.
I sent you Google Docs very late because Google Chrome, I don't know if anybody else is having problems with Google Chrome, but mine does not want to seem to work.
Oh.
So, I can use StreamYard on it, just not for Google Docs, which is like the main thing that I need.
Oh no, I don't know. I have Chrome open and it's working for me.
Okay, well, I guess it just doesn't like me
Strange.
tonight.
Oh no.
So I'm having to have two different browsers open, but we will try to make it work. I think I can make it work. We shall see. Okay, so I think we are good to go. I spent all day in a creek, so I am really behind in catching up on the world. So I think I'm good to go, though. So let's see. I've got all the Google Docs and things. So we are going to be talking about episodes 5 and 6 of My Adventures with Superman. So we'll be doing that tonight. And I think if you're good to go, I think I'm good to go. And we can go ahead and get started.
Let's do it.
McGurk! I love typing.
Not mess with my Google Docs, Meeksy.
Supergirl Radio is going live every night of the week. How do you like it? Is becoming a human burrito a plus or a minus? I don't know. It does seem snug.
I mean, they say you are what you eat.
Kira. I love that.
So I do a podcast called Supergirl Radio, and one of our segments is Lena Luthor, Boardroom or Ballroom, because
she looks like a boss in this coat.
Nasty Luthor like a different Luthor? It's not just Lena being mean?
No.
Helen Slater here. So fun to know that you're hosting a podcast called Supergirl Radio.
Welcome to Supergirl Radio, your source for all things related to the character of Kara Zor-El. My name is Rebecca Johnson.
I'm Morgan Glennon.
And we are live and wired on the DC TV Podcast YouTube channel and the Supergirl Radio Facebook page to discuss the Season 2 episodes of My Adventures with Superman titled Most Eligible Superman and the Machine Who Would Be Empire. And I know some people have asked us if we're going to be covering some news that recently has been coming down, like casting for a Superman, James Gunn's Superman movie, a lot of new casting things there.
Is Nasty Luthor going to be in that? Is that what's happening?
If only. Nasty Luthor being in a live action something or other, or animation. I'll take. We could get Nasty Luthor on My Adventures with Superman.
We're going to start the campaign right now.
if any area of the DC world would give us Nasty Luther, I feel like it would be my
It
Adventures
would
with
be this show.
Nasty Luther, for people who don't know, is a real character in DC Comics. Was a person in Supergirl comics who had a sneaking suspicion that something was not right with this Linda chick in the comics. But one day we'll do a Nasty Luther character spotlight. I feel like we'll get there and do that. I think that's warranted after many years of talking about Nasty Luther. Maybe we should go through it and learn about her and all of her stuff.
The background on Nasty Luther.
We just like talking about Nasty Luther because that's fun. But we will talk about some news in future episodes of Supergirl Radio. I am personally going on a very big trip very soon. And so I just have not been able to get all of that information in because we're doing a lot here right at Supergirl Radio. So we will cover some news with the James Gunn casting and all of that stuff. And we'll do that in the future episodes when I am back from vacation and after Morgan gets a vacation because I'll be on vacation. So we're just going to be vacationing.
I just came back from vacation.
Yeah, Morgan just came back.
On vacation. It's a very vacation heavy time at the podcast.
It is summertime, but that does not mean even when we are gone, you will not get episodes. So while Supergirl Radio is on vacation in your podcast feed, if you haven't already seen it or listened to it, we'll have Q&A panels from Elizabeth Tulloch and Brandon Routh from Superman Celebration. And I'll be doing a Superman Celebration recap as we do every year about all the fun things I saw and the people I talked to there. So that's always a fun time. So we'll have an episode that recaps my adventure there in Metropolis, Illinois. So that will be coming up in your podcast feed. So you won't miss us. I mean, we're still going to be there.
We're still going to be like around.
So look forward to that. Okay, so I think we got to get to it get right to these episodes because we got to talk about two of them. So we're going to be talking about My Adventures with Superman, the episode Most Eligible Superman, which is episode 5 of season 2. And the max description for this episode reads, quote, Lois and Clark's relationship is pushed to the breaking point when Superman is named Metropolis's most eligible bachelor, unquote. I was going to start with the Kara stuff. I don't know, Morgan, do you think we should talk about Kara or should we segue into most eligible Superman?
Maybe we start with the most eligible stuff because I feel like we're going to have lots to say about Kara. we don't want to overlook Superman's big moment in the spotlight. His dating show moment. A hot new single joins the, I don't know, the island or whatever it is.
So Superman is called into this, and I think Clark gets suckered into it because the proceeds go to charity, and Superman can't pass that up, so he's gonna participate.
He was like, "I'm not gonna charity.
Children can benefit from this.
Children."
So, what did you think? First of all, I think we should talk about the fact that Perry decided to send out Lois and Clark to cover this instead of Cat Grant. And I feel like we both love Cat Grant in all forms. And are you surprised by that? Do you think Cat took that well?
She did not take it well. And I was surprised by it because this is Cat Grant's beat, like
her whole thing is she's a gossip columnist.
Gossip, society pages. How dare you take that from her? This is her vertical. This is her moment. So I was surprised that Perry gave it to Lois and Clark. They do have an in with Superman, in that they're always sort of there.
I don't know how that happens.
Man is there. I can't imagine how that would happen or how that would be ethical. But I did think it was really funny that Kat freaked out when she learned that she wasn't going to be covering it, and then managed to cover it anyway, which was great. She's like, you know what? Why don't I come with you? And they're like, no. And she's like, good. I'll.
Yeah, she got her way in there by telling Lois Lane that she was coming with her and sort of, I don't want to say blackmailing her, but she's like, Lois, you both and I know Superman's secret. And so Lois, of course, was like, oh no, I have to take Kat now because
What does she know?
yeah.
And it's nothing.
It was not really anything. So it wasn't that big of a deal. But this was a story that they were going to cover Metropolis's most eligible bachelor and bachelorette contest. Superman was one of these contestants. Other contestants were Silver St. Cloud. Let's see, Hank Henshaw was in there. There was also someone named Chandi Gupta. I did not get a chance to look up Chandi to see.
I was going to look up everybody to see if they were like comic book, like deep cut comic book characters, and I didn't do that. But I just wanted you to know that I did, as I was watching it, think about doing it. I want the credit. I want the credit for the thought.
You get the credit. I appreciate that. If people in the chat, while we're talking, if you want to look up Chandi Gupta, I'm curious if she is a DC Comics character. And then I think Dr. 𝙤𝙪 𝘼𝙙𝙪𝙧𝙚, who climbed Mount Everest 7 times.
7 times. I wasn't sure if they were a comic character either.
The least impressive member of that panel climbed Mount Everest 7 times. But I do have some information to share about Silver St. Cloud. Morgan, did you know that Silver St. Cloud was a character that you should know about?
Did not, actually. That is crazy.
Yeah, so Silver St. Cloud, though, is more associated with Batman. So I was kind of surprised to see her here. Wikipedia, the source of all great information, says Silver St. Cloud is a fictional character appearing in American comic books published by DC Comics. Very descriptive. Commonly in association with the vigilante Batman. The character debuted in Detective Comics number 470 in June 1977 and was created by Steve Englehart and Walt Simonson. Typically, Silver St. Cloud is depicted as a romantic interest of Bruce Wayne.
Oh, uh-oh.
Yeah, so here they used her as
on some of Batman's honeys.
It is interesting. Wikipedia also says that this is a fun fact that you're never going to need to know for any reason. Silver St. Cloud was ranked 64th in Comic Spire's guide of 100 sexiest women in comics.
Oh, well, you know what?
64 of 100.
She had her little dress on, she was flirting. I was like, you go, girl. Listen, you see what you want, and you're like, all right. Apparently he's single. How was she to know?
She didn't know. She couldn't know.
I did look up, what was it, Dr. 𝙤𝙪 𝘼𝙙𝙪𝙧𝙚.
There's 𝙤𝙪 𝘼𝙙𝙪𝙧𝙀 and Chandi Gupta.
𝙤𝙪 𝘼𝙙𝙪𝙧𝙀 was apparently a Wonder Woman villain, Blue Snowman. So I don't know anything about that Wonder Woman character, but apparently they are pulling some deep cuts from the comic books for all of the singles in the in the lineup.
Speaking of singles, there's a good question in the chat that I actually had a question about. Rachel asks, didn't Hank Henshaw mention a wife in a previous episode? How is he a bachelor? That's a great question. That's exactly what I thought too. What happened to Hank Henshaw's wife?
Hank.
Does his wife know that he
quickly takes off his ring when
he did? Rachel, you're not going crazy. I'm pretty sure that was.
He sees silver. He just throws the ring out. Wait, I'm sorry. I don't want to deep dive too much on our singles, but Brian in the chat says that Wikipedia says Silver St. Cloud became the lover of 𝙤𝙪 𝘼𝙙𝙪𝙧𝙀, and I feel like I have a lot of follow-up questions about this. What?
Do we have, Brian, do we have a, okay. I was about to ask about the issue. This is in the Batman 𝙤𝙪 𝘼𝙙𝙪𝙧𝙀 crossover written by Tom King. Tom King, friend of the pod.
So we could ask him about it.
We should have him on just to talk about the 𝙤𝙪 𝘼𝙙𝙪𝙧𝙀
he's coming on. He's like, I can't wait to talk more Supergirl. And we're like, no, we really want to deep dive into the 𝙤𝙪 𝘼𝙙𝙪 thing. How'd he get in there? How did he land Silver St. Cloud?
we should pursue this. I feel like that's a great episode of Supergirl Radio for the future.
That is too funny.
Good to know. Thank you, chat. So, yeah, Silver St. Cloud. I was surprised to see her here. Kat really hypes her up, calls Silver a genius. Silver made a fortune at 13 years old. She's raised millions of dollars for charity every year. She's an influencer. She's a philanthropist, and she's a fashion icon. So Silver St. Cloud
She
has
is
it
the
all
moment.
going on. Clark, seemed to be interested in her, or Superman, I should say, seemed to be interested in her just based on her philanthropy, not so much as a romantic interest. And that caused a little conflict between Clark and Lois. So, what did you think about that?
I was surprised that it like escalated so quickly in the episode, because early on they talk about Lois is the one who's like, you can't say that you have a girlfriend who is a journalist, because people will figure out that like you're Clark Kent is Superman, like they'll figure out your secret identity, so you have to pretend to be single. And he's like, okay, I'll pretend to be single, and immediately starts to like mess up by like describing his perfect woman as a journalist who works at the Daily Planet.
Yeah, he says, I think kindness is important, wanting to help others and a passion for what they do. A bit stubborn sometimes, but she follows the stories that matter on TV when she watches when she's not being a surgeon and tall.
A tall surgeon. My type is a tall surgeon. I thought that was really funny because it's like, what is the opposite of my current girlfriend? That's who I want. So I was surprised that Lois took it so personally when he basically had to like play the role of being like single. So I don't know that I loved that as like like a little bit of drama in their relationship. I don't usually mind it when they play up the drama, but this one felt like a little artificial. I understand that she was, oh my God, I'm so sorry.
Are the lab cats okay?
Bunsen, is everything okay? Bunsen? He's just screaming. He's by my desk.
I could hear him. I was like,
yeah.
What is he?
I was trying to ignore it, but it kept getting louder.
I was wondering if he was like, he and Beaker were talking. I don't know.
No, he's just walking around screaming. We boarded the cats for our vacation, and we just got them back today. And they're like, I'm so sorry for whatever I did. I'll be better. We'll be better cats. So they're a little needy right now. I'm assuming that's where some of the screaming is coming from.
What did they do to them at the boarding place?
They got groomed, which was apparently incredibly traumatizing for Bunsen in particular. Our cat boarder groomer told us that he just sat and screamed the whole time he was being groomed. He didn't like try to get out or anything. He just stood in one place screaming as he was getting washed, which is apparently very traumatizing for Beaker, who was like up next. Just hearing the screaming from the other room. But they survived it is the important part. But yeah, I felt like it was a little bit of drama for drama's sake. Like they did try to like work it in that like, Kat was saying like, oh, of course it wouldn't be somebody like you who would Superman would date, and that Lois was having these sort of insecurities. But I don't think that would have like taken them to the point of like breaking up. It did get them to this point where they both realized that they had things that they hadn't talked to each other about, which we've seen through the season, where he wanted to talk to her about his cousin and she wanted to talk to him about about the job offer. He's fine. I just want to go out and say that Bunsen is fine. I see him. He's me, and he is continuing to scream.
So what were you saying? Sorry.
I just felt it was a little bit much. I think the jump from them just having an argument to them being like, "Are we breaking up?" I was like, "What? That's fast."
They try to justify it, I think, because of Silver St. Cloud kissing Superman. Because they do this kind of typical love triangle composition where Silver St. Cloud kisses Superman and then they pull their faces away and it reveals Lois standing in the middle. So I think they tried to use that as like, this is a really big deal. Lois saw another woman kissing Clark. But I think it was also just maybe like you mentioned, them not talking to each other and having a lot of things that they were not sharing about, Clark using the
Mhm.
beacon and Lois being like, "Hey, I've been offered a job in another city and I didn't tell you about it."
A lot of
Um,
communication problems happening right now.
but at least they've told each other. That's been going on for a couple episodes now. So I'm glad that that is finally out in the open, because that was kind of getting annoying where like they kept trying to tell each other and it wasn't working. But yeah, I guess I can see Lois's insecurities playing in here. But like Lois and Clark have been together for a minute. So I feel like
Yeah.
they should be a little more secure in that relationship. I don't know why, but I think it's like drama for drama's sake.
That's kind of how I felt, is like if they had just had a fight, I would have understood. But like they got to the point where it was like, wait, are you breaking up with me? And I was like, wait, are they breaking up? Really? Like I had the same reaction where I was like, what? Wait, what? This is getting a little intense a little fast. And then of course he got kidnapped. So I'm sure that, they'll make up. But yeah, the jump straight to a breakup seemed a little intense to me.
Yeah, I think Superman getting kidnapped is going to put uh, another perspective on all of that, so that they'll maybe patch things up. Okay, so the other big thing that happened. Everything okay?
That's fine.
Okay, okay. The other big thing, like probably the most important thing for this podcast in this episode, was that Kara Zor-El was
Yes.
she was introduced before as a wee baby, but here she is a grown woman. I'm not sure how old, but she seems adult age, maybe. I'm not sure if we know her age. But she is now here in the My Adventures of Superman universe. We are
She
going to
is.
get to know her. So that's actually very exciting. So I feel like, I don't remember which episode it was, but I do seem to recall that I called that Kara might have a little romantic interest in Jimmy Olsen. And I feel like we got some hint of that here in this episode.
Not just Jimmy Olsen, but the leader of the whole planet, Rebecca. Jimmy Flamebird. That was one of my favorite parts of the obviously all the Kara stuff was my favorite part of the episode. That is obvious. But that she thought he was the leader of the planet, and then also that she thought his name was Jimmy Flamebird, I think were some of my two favorite things.
Well, he did introduce himself as Jimmy Olsen, a leader at the planet and head of the Flamebird division.
He
So
did.
what else was she supposed to think?
And she was like, of the whole planet?
And he didn't say no.
He was like, he was too distracted to correct her. But I thought that was like such an amazing moment where she was like, oh my God, I've just stumbled into this. I love this version of Kara already. I think she's so great. I really like that they, even though we'll get into this a little bit later, she's like a little bit of a more villainous take on Kara. Maybe let's go misunderstood.
Yeah, misunderstood, because I think when we talk about episode 6, we'll get to understand a little bit more of that better.
Yeah, kind of like a reluctant villain.
Mhm.
But I do like that we get her introduction is just like a tour around the city with Jimmy Flamebird, where they get ice cream and eat hot dogs and fall in love. And I loved it. I was like, this is the cutest. I love them so much. They're taking pictures. They're eating everything in Metropolis. Even the pictures, they're eating things. I was like, listen, Jimmy plans a pretty good accidental first date. I think I'm now impressed with Jimmy's swag.
Yeah, well, he took her on a tour of Metropolis, and she went with him. And I think it was interesting how they narratively kind of interwove. They were interweaving the story of Jimmy feeling like he had let Clark down at the symposium situation, and this introduction of meeting Kara, because that did seem to go together in terms of their meet cute and how he was trying to evade Clark a little bit. And he admitted to Kara, like, I've been kind of hanging out with you to avoid my best friend. So, and then some of the relationship between Kara and Jimmy will play into episode 6. So I thought that was really great how they managed to take, because some TV shows don't do this well, where they push the story forward into the next episode and then it picks up in a natural way.
Yeah.
Sometimes it doesn't do that very well, but we started into this episode having had some of that history from the previous episode, but it played into the story that was coming up that we were about to watch. And I thought narratively, I think that worked.
Yeah, I think they've been doing a good job of doing that overall this season, where some of the episodes have kind of led into each other, but it feels like a very natural way where like you can watch them one at a time and it doesn't take away from it, or you can watch them in a batch. So I watched episodes 5 and 6 back to back today, and it felt like it flowed really well. But I think it would have also been just as good if I had watched it, week to week, and that would have been that great cliffhanger.
Yeah, I thought the Kara and Jimmy stuff really played well into that previous episode. And there were some things to mention that I wanted to kind of throw here while we were talking about Kara and Jimmy's tour of Metropolis. Kara, they go to a park and there's some kids playing. In America, we call it soccer. Other places around the world, they call it football. But I did laugh at how Kara, I think, kicked the soccer ball to space. There was a little star.
Yes! Oh my God.
Um,
One of my favorite running jokes was that Jimmy kept missing a Kara doing lots of like alien superhuman things. And then he'd like turn around with a hot dog and like the soccer ball would just be a twinkle in the sky at that point. And he's like, I got you hot dogs. Or there's like a point when he finally figures out that Kara is like an alien or a Kryptonian. She had been like holding the metal bar and it like got all squished up. And then when she like disappears, he goes, uh-oh. Like, uh-oh.
Well, and he also, I think, around that part, he realizes that Superman or Clark is her cousin, and when he sees that, he goes, "Oh!" Like it finally clicked as to they were cousins, and they both have the same powers.
So funny.
Yeah, so I really enjoyed all of that. Now we have talked about Jimmy and Kara a little bit. There's a little crush going on between the two of them, it seems like. So they are developing a relationship. It is worth noting we did get a new amount of Jimmy Olsen's net worth. I wanted to mention it here so we can track it.
Oh, that's right.
After buying Kara some ice cream during the Metropolis montage, it goes down to $2,998. And nope, I'm saying this wrong. I never have to say money this big, so I'm having to make sure I say it correctly. $2,998,784. So it has gone down under $3 million now. So Jimmy's net worth is continuing
steadily
to go
dropping.
down.
Steadily. Well, why, Jimmy? You have to start making some investments. Come on, make your money work for you. I also like that he's buying so much food that day that it like impacted his net worth.
Well, Kara, as we know, she can eat.
She loves she just discovered ice cream, so I gotta give it to her. She's like, whoa, what in the world? I have to have all of the ice cream in Metropolis. And it looks like she ate most of that. At one point she has a like an ice cream cone that's like stacked so high that the ice cream guy who gives it to her looks terrified as she starts eating it. And I was like, that's my girl.
Yeah, Kara in this episode reminded me, I don't know if you've ever seen videos of like babies discovering ice cream for the first time. Like, and they eat it and they don't anticipate, I guess, the sugar or whatever it is, but you can see their whole face change. Like these babies who eat ice cream for the first time, like their whole face changes. And that's what that reminded me of, is that Kara was like this newborn baby who had just discovered ice cream. So yeah, she apparently ate a lot of money's worth of ice cream. One thing I did also wanted to mention something else because I thought it was profound, and this is also because it also watched episode 6 pretty much right after. So this is something that I think is foreshadowing episode 6, but I guess we could talk about it here since the line happens in episode 5. Jimmy and Car are up on the Daily Planet roof talking, and Jimmy asks her, have you ever messed up on such a grand scale it hurts someone else? And I thought that was a really good question to ask this version of Kara based on what we see happen in episode 6. Has she ever messed up on such a grand scale that it hurt someone? The answer is yes, but she doesn't know it. So we'll talk about that during episode 6. But I thought that was a good line of dialogue that not only affected Jimmy's story, but also Kara's as well.
Oh, I don't think I connected that to some of the events in episode 6. Now I like that line even more.
Yeah, I when I went back to rewatch it, I was like, oh, that is very profound. I feel like that that coincides with what Kara is feeling, something that she's gonna have to deal with. Also in this episode, Kara not only meets Jimmy Flamebird. Oh, it's like delayed. Jimmy Flamebird. Perfect. Not only does she meet him, she meets her cousin Cal, and the first impression is not great. She calls
Not
him
great.
calls him a disappointment, and she says that he is a lapdog serving as entertainment to a weak and dissolute world. So not great.
Not great.
So what did you think about Kara and Cal's interaction in this episode?
I felt bad. I felt bad for both of them because they obviously have both been wanting to meet each other. And then their first meeting is sort of a misunderstanding where he's like, I can't talk to you right now. And she's like, you are a disappointment to me personally. I shall kill you. So she kind of goes from 0 to 100 pretty fast. And that's maybe a little bit of a downside of Kara's character, but she gets to see this whole singles event, which is a little weird. And she's like, that's what Earth is like, which maybe not entirely wrong.
It's fair.
It is sort of a reality TV type thing happening. And she's like, I mean, thank God she's never seen like a season of Housewives, or she would just burn the whole planet to the ground.
Yeah, so Kara and Cal, they meet at this most eligible person at this contest, and they start fighting basically at this point, and there's a big showdown between the two of them. Kara actually gives Cal 2 choices. He can either join her in conquering Earth. That's option number 1. Or option number 2 is he can kneel before the new Kryptonian Empire. Both options are terrible.
Options, you know.
Not a lot of room for dissent in those options. So
No.
Either way, he is going with her. So there's a big fight at this end of the at the end of this episode, and I appreciated that, like some other interpretations of Supergirl stories that we've seen, she kind of whips his butt. I mean,
She does, yeah.
she gives it to him. And while they are fighting, Superman musters up a large amount of whatever that mysterious and unexplained energy that he can now shoot at people. He shoots back at her. And so I think they've got to put a name on that at some point in the season, because I'm like, I don't know what this is. I don't know what is happening. But Kara will ask him about that in these episodes. So that's something that other characters are even like, how are you doing that? So
Yeah.
I really hope the show answers that.
He doesn't, I'm not sure that he knows how he's doing it either, which is like, okay. It's surprising because it's not like one of his usual powers, at least not the way that they've kind of portrayed it. So I would be interested to know a little bit more about that power.
I think he does give the only answer he can think of in episode 6, and we can talk about that. But he does have a feeling about it, but not nothing that's concrete as of this moment. I did like that in the animation of the big fight. Visually, I like that Kara in the fight, she's reminding Cal that they are both Kryptonians, and she grabs his S shield as if she's emphasizing that point. And I thought that was a good animated directing or storyboard moment. I thought that was really well done. And she basically whoops his butt and kidnaps him by the end of it.
Now, does he does ice breath or some sort of, like, I think it was like ice breath in this episode, right? Or is that the next one?
I can't remember if it was this
They've
episode or I
merged.
know it's definitely the next episode that he is dealing with the holographic villains that Primus puts in front of him. And I would also, I know a lot of people call it ice breath, but when I talked to Michael Bailey, Superman expert, he said he always talks about it as super breath.
Oh,
As if super breath is all encompassing. So it could be, blowing air, or it could be the ice breath. So I've actually stopped calling it ice breath. I just call it super breath now.
I see
Which is not real descriptive though. I think ice breath is a little more.
It's not.
It's a little more descriptive.
Mind the Gap said Josie Campbell said that was super breath / Arctic breath, which Superman already has. They just did it differently. So yeah, it looks like that. I guess that probably was. I think that's the first time on the show though that they've done that. So that was pretty fun.
Yeah, so I think that's in episode 6. And Trekopedia says I always call it freeze breath, and some people do call it that. So, yeah,
a lot of different names.
Yeah, I guess if you want to be specific, you can call it freeze breath. But yeah, I've tried to get it into the super breath idea.
So I wanted to point out this comment in the chat from Mind the Gap, who said Kara's outfit is a big reference to Android 18 from Dragon Ball Z. I saw this kind of going around before I actually saw this episode, and it definitely is. It's the exact same outfit as the character from Dragon Ball Z. So I asked my resident Dragon Ball Z expert / person who has watched any Dragon Ball Z, my husband. I said, what do you know about Android 18? He basically just said, like, Android 18 was like a villain, and then she became a hero on Dragon Ball. So I was like, oh, interesting. So I feel like they're going to do like a little bit of a parallel story. So I think it's fun that they like did an homage to that Dragon Ball character's outfit, and even kind of a little bit of the hairstyle too. She has like a little bit more of just kind of like a blunt, I guess, shoulder length hair, whereas Kara's got more of the like the long strands in the front, and then like back a little bit tighter in the back. But I thought that was a fun detail that they put her in the like the Dragon Ball Z outfit from that character, but that it has a little bit more meaning than just them liking Dragon Ball Z or that character, that it's sort of telling you a little bit about like what her story is going to be about.
Yeah, I like that a lot because it shows not only do they have an appreciation for the DC Comics mythology, but they have an awareness and a deep respect for the anime genre. And they're merging the two of them together and showing that they have an understanding of why those things matter and how that's going to inform Kara's character journey as she goes forward. So I had no idea about Android 18. So thank you for filling me in on that. I'm not a big Dragon Ball Z person. I know Goku, that's it. And I know enough to get by.
I was a Sailor Moon girly, so I didn't really watch the Dragon Ball Z. But it was something that I saw kind of floating around and thought was pretty cool. And I was trying to find a photo, and then the tab immediately started playing something, which was fun and stressful. Because I was like, oh, I'll just put it up on screen to show. But I can do that now because I'm just going to show my image search instead of going to the page, because it started just showing things. It started talking back to me, which I didn't like. But as you can see here, the outfit's pretty, like, it's kind of identical, almost
dead on. Yeah.
You can even see like where she has the little patch, so the House of 𝙬𝙧, the Android 18 character has her own like little patch like right there. So you like it's pretty exact, which I think is really fun. I think it's a really fun reference.
Yeah, I suppose if like some of our listeners who had seen that before watching the episode, because the one of the promos before the episode aired uh sort of gave that look away. And so I guess if you were aware of Android 18 from Dragon Ball Z, you would be like, oh, what is this? Uh the now that I'm looking at this and we're talking about the outfit she has on, is this just what she wears under her, like, robot, armor that she
I
comes
guess
in?
so. I guess
Like,
or
where did she get the jeans and
I
the vest?
I like to think that she like went to Earth to find Clark, and then she was like, "But first, shopping. But first, I have to put a little fit together, just so that I can make a good impression. Like, what are the kids wearing these days? She like buy some crew socks or something. I don't know. She's like, I've got to look great.
I'm sure if she had the ability to, uh come to Earth and the technology that she has is more advanced. Maybe it's one of those things where she just thinks of the clothes that she needs and says something like Earth clothing, and it just
Oh,
pops
and then
up.
maybe they just gave it to her.
Yeah, maybe it's just some technological advancement that she can just come with the local culture's clothing. But I like the idea that she went shopping. I don't know where she'd get the money, but I'm sure she can make it
She
work.
just like walks into a store, takes the outfit, and leaves. They're
What
like,
what are they gonna do? Like, put her in jail?
I know. Wait, you have to pay for that. She's like,
Do I?
bye. What is pay?
Are there any other aspects of this episode that you wanted to talk about before we wrapped up?
No, I just really I thought this was like such a nice introduction to Kara's character in this version of the Superman story. I like that they're going in a different direction with her. They've done that with a couple of different characters in my adventures with Superman, and I always really trust the show with like what they're going to do, because I think they've proven in the first season and so far in the second season that they might not do exactly what we're used to with the characters, but they are working from like a place of respecting the character and really wanting to do a different take that is informed by like who the character is, versus just be like, and then his name is Snap or Car. He does not snap. And he's a journalist, and you're like, he is and he doesn't. So I really like the beginning, our introduction to Kara. I feel like this is an angrier, sort of more angsty Kara than maybe we've seen in some other place. But I mean, I guess in the Woman of Tomorrow, she's a little bit more angsty as well. So I think it's fun to kind of get the more uplifting Kara in like the Supergirl TV show, and to hear in and some other places to get a little bit of the more angsty Kara. And I think that the backstory that they gave her is pretty interesting. We'll get into it in the next episode. But I think as an introduction, this was really fun. I like that we got to meet her as a person before she kind of unveils that like we know that she's Clark's cousin, but like before she does the big unveil and starts fighting with Clark.
Yeah, I really like that their take on Supergirl is informed by the genre itself. They looked at anime and they said, how can we make an anime version of Kara Zor-El / Supergirl? And that's the route they decided to go with her. I think that's actually really clever because it plays into this interpretation and this perspective based on a genre that they, I think, have done a pretty good job with. I'm not an anime expert, but I feel like they've done a lot of things to play into that style of storytelling, and I think that's been fun to see that they set out to say, hey, we're going to basically make an anime Superman TV show, and so this is how they're going about it. And I think they've done such a good job on that. The only other thing I wanted to mention before we wrapped up is that there's a comic book character in the most eligible person contest, Bachelor and Bachelorette contest. that we didn't mention, and his name is George Taylor. He is the guy who asks a question at the press conference.
Oh,
And
yeah.
George Taylor is actually the editor-in-chief of the Daily Star, which was before the Daily Planet was created. So George Taylor actually debuted in Action Comics #1,
Whoa.
next to Clark Kent and Lois Lane. So George Taylor goes back to the very beginning of DC Comics. So when he was in the comics pretty prominently, he was editor-in-chief of the Daily Star, which I think pre-Crisis was also like Earth 2 Superman stuff. So I think somebody can correct me, but I think on Earth 2, Lois and Clark worked at the Daily Star instead of the Daily Planet.
Whoa, twist.
So it was cool to see that they brought George Taylor into this episode and paid homage to a very old character that is older, well, not older, but just as old as Superman and Lois. So that was pretty fun to see him there. Do we have any comments in the chat that we need to get to before we go into the next episode? I feel like a lot of people have been talking about stuff, but I guess we could go into
Electra WWF says the Daily Star was named after a real life Canadian newspaper called the Toronto Star.
There you go. And
the more you know.
Yeah. So that is awesome. Okay, well, let's go ahead and get into the second episode that we are going to be talking about, which is The Machine Who Would Be Empire. So the max description for this episode reads, quote, kidnapped and far from home, Superman bonds with his cousin Kara and discovers the truth about Krypton from the last Kryptonians in existence, exclamation point, unquote. So this episode was really, for the most part, about Kara and Cal, which I thought was really cool. It was just an episode with just them. The previous episode, episode 5, did a good job of intercutting between the Kara and Jimmy storyline and the Lois and Clark storyline. But here we just had Kara and Cal. So, Morgan, what did you think about Kara and Cal exploring Kryptonian memories and what Kara's goal with her strict father could mean for the future of the Kryptonian race?
Yeah, I thought it was an interesting twist that her father is Brainiac. And
technically his name is Primus, but essentially he is Brainiac.
Like, please, I'm Primus. My father is Brainiac. But I thought that was a good twist. I was like, oh man. And it also reminded me a little bit of, because we've been watching the Tomorrowverse movies. It reminded me a little bit of the Tomorrowverse with the Monitor, who kind of adopted Kara and is like, my daughter, we just watch. We don't
we just observe.
We don't interact. And she's
like, monitoring.
What if we did though? And he's like, shh, honey, just eat your dinner. Dinner is our thing. But yeah, I thought it was an interesting backstory for her, that she's, instead of knowing that she was, because she got in this version, she's also a baby when she is rescued from Krypton. But usually what happens is that she's a little older and then she gets stuck in like the Phantom Zone, and then she comes out and Clark's older than her and she's like, what do you mean? I was supposed to look after you. And this is interesting because they were both babies in this version, but she apparently gets intercepted by Brainiac, and kind of gets a little bit like mind controlled. She gets a little bit twisted. He's raised her to think he's her father and to think all of these things about Krypton and their glorious empire that they need to recreate, and that everybody was just like having the best time in Krypton before it all blew up. Who could know why? And I thought that was a really interesting take on her backstory that I hadn't necessarily seen that much of before. And I like the idea of her kind of seeming villainous, but it's not really that she has that villainy inside of her. It's just like the way that she was raised and what she was raised to think of as important. But as we see in her little memory box almost of like things that she's
thought
taken.
thought projector? Is that
Oh, no, like the
oh, this is
little
different. Oh,
her
yes, like with the
her
pictures from
mementos,
yes,
yeah.
yes.
Like she kept little mementos from all the places that they went because she liked, learning about the new cultures of the places, and she thought that they were doing something good. And when that reveal comes around at the end of the episode that they'd actually destroyed all these planets and all these
Mm.
people, she's really disturbed. It's like it really has rocked her entire foundations of her world. And I thought that was a really interesting storyline to give her character. And I liked the way that they played that out, especially the way that they played that out in combination with Clark being like, here's my world and here are my parents. And she's like, your parents are dulling your shine. And it's like, I mean, a little bit, but there's context there. You can't just throw a baseball through a human child. It's like frowned upon.
Yeah, Kara says, I've spent my whole life helping Father reestablish the empire for the good of the universe. She at least thinks that she has spent her whole life helping him do this and thinking that it's a good thing, the good of the universe. So he has really, the Primus Brainiac has really mind controlled her or implanted. It sounded like he had sort of implanted memories for her. He says, I gave you memories of our world and you throw them aside like so much dross, which I had to look up. I was like, what does dross mean?
I knew what it meant, but I was like, I have not heard a person say that word out loud, actually. I've read it in books, but like I've never heard somebody like in conversation use that one. So I was like, oh, okay, we're getting out our big words.
Yeah, dross means waste or foreign matter or an impurity. So Kara is throwing aside the memories that he's giving her as impurity, as waste. They're wasteful. So I think what the show did really well is that in episode 5, the episode previous to this, where we see basically, I mean, just to throw it out there, Kara doing some really terrible things, basically destroying worlds. In episode 5, we see when she fights Superman, she hesitates a little bit because she sees civilians. She sees humans being impacted by it. And so I think it's really good that they put that in there so that when I go into when I see that she has a moment where she is concerned about the people of the city, and then in the next episode, when I see that she has realized she has been mind controlled to hurt people, I realize like that's not really her. She would not do that because she actually wanted to protect those people in a previous skirmish. So yeah, this was a really heavy episode for Kara, but I like it just because it helps me understand that she is a character who wants to do the right thing, that she cares about her Kryptonian culture, that she wants to explore other planets, and that she even has a good time bonding with her cousin. But it's just really unfortunate what she realizes about herself because she doesn't know. She didn't even know Zor-El was her father.
Yeah, that was such a surprising moment too when he's like, "Oh, Zor-El is Zor-El is alive," and I thought that was really affecting too. When Clark is like, "Oh my God, is it more than just you? Is there like somebody else from our planet? Like, is my uncle still there?" And then realizes like, "No, it's just this weird robot." But yeah, that she doesn't even know who her real father was. That she doesn't really know anything about her background or her backstory. I see. I like this comment that Brian said in the chat that I'm going to pull up and when I find it, which is one consistent theme: Kara's journey to Earth is always more difficult than Clark's.
I think that's great, actually, because it gives her a much meatier backstory and a much more informed character when she comes to Earth. So I've always liked that about the Supergirl character, that even though she has a hard time, I think it makes her a more hopeful character in the long run. So I don't mind that at all. But yeah, she has, to your point, she's been collecting things from planets she has been to. These planets are 𝙈𝙮 𝘼𝙪𝙪𝙧𝙀, and 𝘎𝑎𝑛𝑎𝑔𝑎R, which we know because of the hawk people. So did she? I don't know if she like laid waste to all the hawk people.
Hawk bro, no.
I don't know what happened to them,
We
but
gotta pour one out for Hawk bro. I don't think he made it.
yeah, when she takes Superman to 𝘎𝑎n𝑎𝑔𝑎R, she's surprised that it looks like a wasteland. Essentially, there's no people around. It's pretty colorless, and Superman even calls 𝘎𝑎n𝑎𝑔𝑎R a dead planet. So, really spelling it out for Kara on that. And one of the things I thought was really interesting to help emphasize Kara's realization about herself is that when she goes to 𝘎𝑎n𝑎𝑔𝑎R, there's like this hieroglyphic type of mural that sort of
Oh,
appears
yeah.
for her, and it depicts this like sun god or like a figure that it looks like there's a sun around it. And I don't know if those little other figures in the sort of hieroglyphic image were the other like brainiacs or something. I don't know what those were that were using the rays of the sun down on the city. But I thought that was really interesting because Kara almost immediately recognizes that that is her. Like, she has this realization based on that image that she's shown, and that sort of wakes her up to what has actually happened. So I felt really bad for her because it's obvious she didn't want to do this to these planets. She's destroying whole cultures and killing people and wiping them out. But she doesn't know that she's done it.
Yeah, I thought that was sad that, like, she, clearly liked going to these planets and thought that she was doing something nice for the people that when she was there, and you can tell that obviously there is, like, has been a level of brainwashing and mind control where she remembers having done something nice and, like, leaving them in, like, a great spot, and then, she can't even see the mural the first time she takes Clark there.
Mm.
Like, it's scrambled for her in her mind. And when she goes back, it's only after she goes back that she like looks at it and finally sees the mural for what it is. The scrambling kind of releases itself. So it's clear that Brainiac has done something, like mind controlled her in some way, has kind of like has the ability to like reset her almost,
Mm.
because when they get into an argument, and she sees that he's done something to Clark, she kind of like wakes up and Clark's there and she's like, how did Clark get here? Like, it's seemingly that she didn't remember all of the conversations that she had with Clark or anything like that. And then the memories start to kick back in. So even though Brainiac has been kind of mind controlling her, there's only so much you can do. Like, it's back there in the corner of her mind and it kind of comes back up. And then she goes to all those planets and sees how bad they are. And then it remembers again, like, oh no. And then like, that's when it occurs to her that like she had done it. But it'd be interesting. I'm sure that they will get into it, like how he exactly has been mind controlling her and like getting into her brain and kind of like wiping out those memories as well.
That makes me feel for her because I was trying to put myself in that situation. What if somebody could control my mind and I had no control over it? I would feel so helpless, but I wouldn't even probably know to feel helpless because I wouldn't have known that something had been done to me. So that is actually kind of pretty scary. So even though I was not thrilled with the Michael Emerson Brainiac voice before, he became very scary to me in this episode. So I think they really ramped up the Brainiac threat level here. And I wanted to bring this comment up from Mark, who said, I went back and looked, and in all the scenes where she's killing multitudes, her eyes are gray. So that means she's under mind control. So they did show that in some of the episode when she would seemingly come out of it, her eyes would be normal. And then when she would look as though she were going back under mind control, her eyes would go gray. So I think that's a good visual cue to show us when that's happening to her. So I think that's something that will help me and be able to track it as we go throughout the rest of the season.
I also saw another thing that I guess we can talk about some of the DC references here. But Mind the Gap says apparently even one of the worlds they mentioned was the Squirrel Green Lantern Chip's homeworld.
Which one is that? Do we
Oh no,
know?
I don't know.
It's either Euphorix or Helvin. My guess
Yeah,
is it's Helvin because it
probably
has an apostrophe like his name.
like Chahip.
Yeah. Let's see.
Oh, the poor squirrels. I don't like that. We do see a Green Lantern in the sort of battle simulator that Brainiac makes Superman do, where he has to fight like a Thanagardian, and then it looked like he was fighting somebody with a Green Lantern ring.
Yes. I believe it was a Green Lantern, and some people are saying the other one, there were 3 of them, was possibly a parademon. So
Oh,
Brainiac was really putting Superman to the test there with these holographic um, visions that he was seeing. Really, what they were other Brainiac robots, but what Superman was seeing was the holographic image of the parademon Green Lantern and the Hawk person that he was fighting. So that was another thing that I thought was interesting, and I think tied into Kara's story is that Brainiac seems to want to use them as weapons.
mm-hmm.
He's already been using Kara as a weapon to a great effect. I mean, he's been able to wipe out whole places, and so she is definitely a weapon under his control. So I guess he was like, "Well, I tried it with this one Kryptonian, and I was real successful
And it
with it."
worked. Yeah.
So it seems like he's trying that on Superman as well. And he's got Superman in a bad position because he's using Red Sun. He activates a Red Sun Omega field to contain Superman. So Superman's in some trouble because that's not something he can easily get out of.
That's a bad one for him.
Yeah, and there was something in here about Kara suggested that Cal kneel before Primus, the old joke about kneeling before Zod that everybody talks about. And I thought it was this was kind of scary too in terms of the mind control. Primus tells Superman, "I don't need your cooperation. I just need you to kneel." So Primus is this Brainiac is very secure in his ability to control these Kryptonians. He doesn't need them to cooperate because he can make them do whatever he wants them to do. To me, that is a very scary character that you have no like Kara with all of her power and all of her strength and all of her heat vision, all of the things that she can do. She's helpless to fight Brainiac at this point. So I'm very curious as to how they will. I assume Kara will eventually break out of this and not be controlled by him anymore. So I am curious about what that would take for her to break out of that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I thought that the storyline was really interesting and also really dark for poor Kara that that she had done all of these terrible things and she didn't see really the Kara that we met in the previous episode eating ice cream and taking pictures with Jimmy all around Metropolis. Didn't seem like the kind of Jimmy Flamebird, of course. Didn't seem like the kind of person who would do that. And even having been brought up by Brainiac to like believe in like Kryptonian supremacy and like that she should be creating a new empire, like her big thing was like, look at how happy the people were, like look at them, like she like obviously had spent a lot of time in that memory being like, I wonder what Kryptonian food tasted like I wonder what these people were doing in their everyday lives, not like, oh my god, the glory of the Kryptonian empire. She was more like on the ground there with the people wondering what their lives were like. And we even see in the last episode where she doesn't want to hurt like the little boy when her and Clark are fighting. So I think that this is going to have like quite an effect on her when she realizes what Brainiac has been using her to do.
Yeah, I just wonder if she can even address that with him because to your point, her brain is kind of in reset. So can she even ever get mad at him for it?
That's true. Can he just continue? Like, what does he have on her? Like, how is he controlling her? Because can he just like continue hard resetting her, like turning her off and turning her back on again?
She's not an iPhone, Morgan. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. But yeah, that seems like what he's able to do is just reset her memories so that she will never know what she has done. But I think Brainiac is looking for the ability to use these Kryptonians as weapons. And that is for Superman, that's his big fear. He does not. He's seen how some people think that he is a weapon, and he's like, no, I don't want to be a weapon. He even tells that to Primus in this episode that he does not want to be a weapon. He vehemently rejects that idea, and so that's a big fear for him, is that he would be used in such a way and maybe against his will. So not only did I feel bad for Kara in this episode, but I felt bad for Superman. The two probably I don't want to say the two strongest characters in the DC universe, because Mixes-Pitalik is the most powerful, I would say. But in terms of strength, the Kryptonians are pretty up there.
A little hard to beat.
The
A little
DC
hard to
universe.
beat.
So even with all their strength, they are under a control that they cannot do anything about at the moment. So that puts them in a real a good story, I think, to put them in some real stakes. I guess since we did talk about Superman and Kara, I wanted your take on, so some of their bonding time is like throwing asteroids around up in space. What
Like
did you think about
like
that?
snowballs at each other. I thought that was really cute. I was like, I love the cousins bonding. I love them having this moment. And I think it was really cute too, because you see the flashback of Clark's childhood where he's playing baseball with his dad, and he has to keep like, okay, a little bit weaker, a little bit weaker. And now he finally gets to, have fun with somebody who is his exact same power level, who he kind of can't hurt, or at least he would have to like be on he can't hurt by accident, essentially, just by being himself. And I thought that scene was really, really fun. And I really liked at the end of the scene where he thinks that she's stuck in the meteor and he goes to save her, and he uses that force field, where he says that it's something that pops up when somebody he cares about is in trouble. And she just kind of can't wrap her head around, like, well, I'm the most powerful person. I'm the most powerful Kryptonian. Right, Bunsen? Bunsen couldn't believe it either when that happened. But she was like, if there was some special power, I should have it. Like, but she doesn't realize that because of the way that she like grew up without sort of Bunsen agrees with everything I'm saying.
Bunsen is real chatty.
Bunsen is chatty tonight. Bunsen is traumatized and clean and chatty. But yeah, like that she can't kind of connect the dots, that it's what he said was that like this happens when he is concerned about somebody he cares about, and she has been so isolated for so long that she hasn't probably felt that emotion before, and she doesn't really like know what that's like. And I thought that was like a nice little insight to both of their characters.
Well, if you were mind controlled and essentially a robot, how could you feel anything for another person? Yeah, that is a great point. I did like them being able to throw asteroids at each other. That felt very like Silver Age.
Yes, it did.
So that was really fun to see that play out. And even the bit of her pranking him with the helmet.
Yeah.
For whatever reason, they can like say helmet, and a helmet will appear on the spaceship. And so Superman does that because he thinks he needs a helmet to go out to fly in space. And Kara knows that they don't need it because they're Kryptonian and they can fly in space without the helmets. And she pranks him like she can't breathe out in space. And I thought that was a really nice way to show that Kara had a sense of humor, and that she was trying to uh lovingly mess with him in a way. And so I really liked that, even though it was kind of a cruel thing for her to do because he seemed really concerned about her. But I mean that's a Supergirl kind of trait, that sort of brash um way of handling humor and things like that. So I felt like that was pretty character correct for Kara. So I really enjoyed that aspect of their time bonding in space.
It seemed like to me like perfect for somebody who hasn't grown up around a lot of other people and like doesn't know the difference between like a playful joke and like something super messed up that's gonna upset someone. And she was like, everyone's laughing, and he's like, I'm not laughing. I was like, oh, I love this Kara, man. She's doing the best she can.
I also want to point out that Kara says to Superman, "You're quick, but I'm faster." And I thought that's actually canonically true in the comics, that
That's
she's
true.
faster than Superman. So I don't
That's our girl.
I don't know if My Adventures with Superman knows that that's true in the comics, but
Faster than Superman, faster than the Flash.
but, I mean, some would argue that.
Some would argue, some would say.
So I really liked all the Kara stuff in here, even though it was kind of hard to watch and it was very sad. The only thing I didn't quite like about the Kara stuff, and this is just my personal uh, preference, but the actress, who I think has done a great job, uh, I had her name in episode
It's
5.
Kiana Madeira.
Yes, I think she's done a great job as Kara in these 2 episodes, and I assume she'll be in more. But the only thing I didn't quite like about her performance is that she said Kal-El. Kal-El.
Ah.
You know, some people will say that in versions of Superman live action or animated stories, but I don't know. I like a hard Kal-El.
Me too. I agree.
Yeah.
I didn't notice that, but now it's all I'm gonna hear.
You're gonna hear it because
I'm gonna hear it, yeah.
she said it like 5 times in this episode. Kal-El.
Now I'm gonna be like, really, I'm gonna notice it all the time when she says
I'm
it.
sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Kal-El?
But to her credit as a performer, she's consistent about it. So
That's true.
that's my thing. Just pick
Mirren
one and stay
Marin
with it.
situation.
Yeah. Know where you're putting that apostrophe, please. But at least she's consistent about it. So that's the only thing I didn't quite love about this version of Kara, but I'm okay with it if that's consistently what they choose to go with.
I looked her up because I wasn't sure if I was familiar with anything that she'd been in, and realized that she was in the Fear Street series of movies that were on Netflix. I think that they came out in like 2021. I enjoyed them a lot. So I was like, okay, yeah.
You're knowledgeable about her previous work. Good.
Yeah, I was like, oh, I loved those movies. Very fun if you like a good slashery horror movie. A really fun series of movies. So yeah, I was like, but then I was like trying to like rack my mind. I was like, wait, which character was she? But it was I thought she did a good job in these 2 episodes. I really like her Kara acting, and I think she's good. Yeah.
Yeah, I just have that one quibble, and people in the chat are talking about the other instances where people say it like Kal-El. Rachel says Diana might have said it that way in Justice League. Yeah, she does, and I still don't like it there. And then Carrie mentions in the chat that Laura Vandervoort had the same Kal-El pronunciation.
I didn't remember that either, but I believe it.
Also didn't love it in that version. I'm just not a fan of that pronunciation.
Kal-El.
But it has been used in other iterations of Superman live action or animated stories. So it's a fair way to say it. It's just not my preferred way to say it. I guess the only other thing that we probably should talk about that was kind of a pretty fun twist at the end, for me anyway, is that at the end of the episode, Kara, when she sees that hieroglyphic type mural thing that helps her understand what she's been part of, and it triggers her to flashback to seeing herself, I guess, burning the cities with her heat vision. She goes out into space and she's crying to herself, and she kind of calls out for Clark, and she's crying and she's alone and she's wondering what she's supposed to do now. And a spaceship shows up through, I'm guessing, a portal. And Morgan, what did you think about the people who were in that spaceship?
It got me hyped for the next episode. I was like, I love everyone in there. Lois, my girl, Jimmy Flamebird, love him.
It's delayed when it's playing. Sorry.
And then I saw my good buddy, the doctor. What was
Monsieur Mala and the Brain.
Monsieur Mala and the Brain. Fan favorites from season 1. I love them. Their love is so beautiful. I'm glad that they helped Jimmy and Lois get to space, and I have to assume that the next episode is going to be like a flashback to like how Jimmy and Lois ended up in a spaceship in space with Monsieur Mala and the Brain, and I can't wait. I was like, you're promising me big things here with this lineup in this spaceship, and you better deliver.
And I like the idea that maybe they're going to pick Kara up. I want to know how Kara is going to interact with this troop of zany characters. I'm very interested in that.
I just wanted to point out that Carrie in the chat said Jimmy with the spaceship has to be totally broke now, right? And that feels like that's going to do it.
He has less than $3 million. How much do spaceships cost?
Spaceships got to be expensive. That's too bad for Jimmy. I think
is it $2 million expensive or $3 million?
I feel like it's probably going to wipe out the rest of his millions.
Yeah, so they are going up into space, and I guess helping, and I guess not even just helping Kara. They may come to rescue Superman too. So I'll be looking out for that. I'm very excited to see what they are being brought into for this this next episode. Okay, so I guess wrapping up your overall thoughts on episode 6, Morgan, what did you think about this one?
I thought this one was really good. I liked the Supergirl backstory in this. I liked the cousins bonding. I honestly kind of liked that it wasn't a bottle episode per se, but it was this episode that only focused on those two characters of Clark and Kara, because the relationship between the cousins, I think, is really important. And with all the other characters around, I think it could have gotten diluted about how important it was for him to finally meet his cousin. And I like that they got the cousin episode where they got to really bond, even if it was in some horrific ways at times, like, discovering that she had done a couple of genocides and stuff like that. Not the best.
Not great.
But I did like that they got some lighter moments, and they got to really kind of get to know each other. And I like that they got to do that honestly kind of away from the other characters, so that when the other characters come back into the story, there's a more formalized foundation of their relationship.
Yeah, I think they've done a pretty good job of exploring the cousin dynamic and furthering it to where they're connected now. They start off a little rough in episode 5, and then by episode 6, they have a little bit of a better understanding of each other, and they have some things in common. And now we'll probably have more things in common now that they both may be used as weapons and have to deal with Brainiac, and maybe have him as being a character that they will both have to defeat. And I really like the idea of putting Kara with Brainiac, because she has a history of being put with Brainiac. She has a lot of Brainiac interactions in Smallville. She is I think it's the end of season 7 into season 8. Kara on that show, Kara Kent, or Supergirl, she has to deal with Brainiac there in Injustice, I believe, or maybe it's Injustice 2, maybe the video game. There's and the comic. Brainiac is there when Krypton is being destroyed, and so Kara has to evade Brainiac and what he's doing to her people. So the Brainiac Supergirl connections are there throughout her lore. So I think it's very appropriate for her to be connected to him in this way. So I think it's a hard story to watch, but I think it's a good one so far. I think I've been really enjoying where this is going, and I am looking forward to seeing her transition from villain to hero, as foreshadowed by her outfit in episode 5. So good 2 episodes here. I do not have any snap judgments because I did not think to put any in. Do we think I get what instead of snap judgments, let's get to a question in the chat.
Ooh.
Is that Zoracious in the chat says, between 0 Day Part 1, 0 Day Part 2, Hearts of the Father, Two Lanes Diverged, and The Machine Who Would Be Empire, which episode do you think is the most intense? I guess that's kind of a snap judgment, but it's still a lot more.
There's a lot
options.
of snaps, but yeah.
Which one would you say, Morgan?
Oof. That's interesting. You know what? I think that the last episode, I think, might have been the most intense, at least for me, because I think it was like emotionally intense for the characters, especially for Kara, my girl. So I'm gonna go The Machine Who Would Be Empire. I think it was intense for her to realize that she had been, not just that she had been doing all these terrible things, but also that this person she thought was her father had been using her in that way. I think, we'll get to see some of the emotional fallout of that as well. But I mean, that's also a terrible thing for her.
Yeah, I would agree. I think the Machine Who Would Be Empire, I would say that would be the most intense episode of the bunch. I did think of a snap judgment. I do want to ask you, Morgan. And
Okay.
if you have one that you think of by the time the intro ends, feel free to ask it. But I think I have one formulated that I would love to hear your answer to. So we can make an impromptu snap judgment.
Nice.
In the game of snap judgments, each person is presented with 2 options, but must only choose one. First instincts are recommended and explanations are unnecessary. Okay, so if you had $2,998,000, no, I keep messing this up. I'm start over.
Yeah.
If you had $2,998,784 in your bank account,
That's a lot.
would you spend it on ice cream or a trip to space?
Ooh, I'm gonna go ice cream hard. Listen, space is beautiful, so majestic. Being able to see the Earth from space, a life-changing opportunity. I don't like the idea of zero gravity, if I'm being honest, and it does like weird things to your body. Like I've seen those astronaut videos, and it's like, no thanks. That's like I'm not going to get to that level of like being able to, like, my body would simply melt in space. And so I'll just take all of the ice cream. It's sort of like the opposite of going to space in a way. It's like how to make things incredibly worse for your body instead of better. But I mean, although flip side, I could eat that weird space ice
cream. Yeah.
In space. I'm still choosing the ice cream though.
And when you go to space, don't you you don't age as much, but then like everybody else, like
Okay, wait a minute. As somebody who has a birthday coming up, not aging as much is appealing.
But like time passes slower or something. Like people, like there's a whole, isn't that an Einstein thing? Like a relativity?
I don't know, but this could be a great anti-aging strategy. I didn't think about that. I'm still going ice cream, but that is a good added benefit.
Yeah, Carrie in the chat says that ice cream is the better option. That William Shatner said space is just total darkness. I can get that with lights out in the bathroom.
The thing is, I could watch a video of the view from space of the Earth while eating my ice cream in my own living room. I'm not floating around anywhere.
True. So are you spending like less than $3 million on just like a limited like an unlimited supply of ice cream? I'm
I
trying to think
think it would have to be, considering the amount of money, it would have to be like a lifetime supply of ice cream. So every time I get ice cream, I just never pay, and I'm just kind of constantly like bringing down the amount. Like I would have to really commit to a very heavy ice cream lifestyle, which I feel like I'm already kind of committed to. So. But I would have to go harder, I think, to be able to spend that money. But I feel like I could do it. Ice cream parties every week. Just all of my friends, everyone's getting ice cream.
You're gonna be like, you remember in the 9 Lives of Christmas, Mary Lee had those big things of ice cream,
industrial sized tubs of ice cream.
I think if you spend $3 million on ice cream, I think I'm going like I also would pick ice cream, by the way. I don't think I'm going to space. I don't think I think I would be fine with the zero gravity. I would think I would be like I would enjoy like floating around up there, but I would not make it from the rocket to space.
Oh,
because I've also seen the videos of them like in the rockets, like I don't think I could do that.
In Disney World, there is a ride,
Mission Space,
that is like replicating the experience of going to space. And I will say that I left that ride before going on it because I was too stressed out about the experience, because they were explaining the ride and they have to give you all the safety information. At one point they were like, you're gonna want to not look away from the screen, because if you do, you might puke. And I was like, you know what, I'm doing this in my free time for fun. Why? And I left. Again, it's the problem is it's like a kind of a group based exercise.
Yeah, everybody has a role.
Everybody has a role, and I abandoned my role. So the nice family that I was single rider with definitely did not land. They died, but I was like, no, I'm good. So if I can't even go on mission space, there's no way I'm making it into actual space. I know my limitations.
Have you ever seen the Space Camp movie?
No, I don't think I have.
Oh, you should watch it. So the premise of this, because I watched it because my brother actually went to space camp.
That is, I always wanted to go to space camp. I don't, again, in hindsight, I would not have enjoyed it, but I thought it looked like it was the best.
So because of my personal connection to space camp, I watched the movie, and it's a pretty good movie, but the premise is kind of stupid because the space camp kids somehow get into the real rocket. And there's a robot that thinks that this kid wants him to like activate the rocket. So like these space camp kids get in the real spaceship and go to space. And it's like, why? How did this happen? Why did we let these children go up the spaceship?
Seems like a bad idea.
So I highly recommend it, though. It's actually very good. The premise is ridiculous, but very fun. So I think I'm definitely picking ice cream, and I'm spending $3 million on refrigerators or freezers.
Oh, smart.
You got to level up on the freezers, and then I think I'm diversifying my ice cream inventory. So I'll get the the tubs of the ice cream, but then maybe invest in like milkshake things and different desserts that go with ice cream, maybe ice cream cakes, something like that.
Okay. I have a follow-up question. It's not snap judgment, but Rachel does want to know our favorite ice cream flavors. It's irrelevant because obviously we're buying so much ice cream with our millions and millions.
Oh yes, all the flavors.
I mean, all the flavors. At $3 million, I'm going to try each and every single ice cream flavor. But at our normal amount of money, like what's your go-to?
I think if I'm going to get ice cream, the go-to I think is always cookies and cream.
That's a great one.
I can never go bad with cookies and cream. But I was trying to think anything chocolate based, I think would be good. I'm trying to think if there's like a peanut butter something or other.
Oh,
but I think if I'm going to an ice cream place, it's either going to be chocolate or it's going to be cookies and cream. Probably
smart.
Yeah. What about you?
I think so again, I love all of my ice cream children equally. They're all great, but I do tend to kind of gravitate towards like the coffee ice creams. Like sometimes if I'm out, I'll be like, "Oh, let's try a little coffee ice cream." So I know I feel like it's a controversial choice. I feel like a lot of people don't like coffee ice
No,
cream.
I think it's fine. Yeah.
But it's combining two of my great loves, which is coffee and ice cream. I get to have it both together.
Sometimes coffee ice cream is good.
Exactly.
I don't have a problem with that. I don't feel like that's controversial
Thank you
in
for
the slightest.
defending the coffee ice cream.
And Stanley says, for that kind of money, you could pay to get the best ice cream in the world shipped to you.
You
Ooh, that's
could.
true. All right. This is another question, not a snap judgment, but just another question because I know you're a world traveler too, Morgan. What talking about the best ice cream in the world?
Ooh,
Where do you think the best ice cream in the world is found?
that's a great question. I will say I'm a little biased, but I had some really good gelato in Italy, like really good gelato, and like almost everywhere that I got it, it was very good, no matter like what city I was in. So I would kind of lean towards Italy. Of the places of at least of the places that I have been, I think that had the best ice cream.
Funny enough, I was also going to say Italy.
Nice. Listen, they know what they're doing with their gelato.
The gelato over there is pretty good. Maybe second place would be France. I ate a lot of ice cream in
Ooh.
France.
Yeah, I haven't been to France, but I do
Yeah.
feel like they would have good ice cream.
Yeah, no. I'm putting my vote towards Italy as well. So that has been ice cream talk with Morgan and Rebecca. So if you want more ice cream takes, we will follow up on that. But I think it was a good conversation about ice cream. Now I kind of want some.
People are like there was a lot of conversation about ice cream in this in this podcast episode about my adventures with Superman. But listen, it's relevant because Kara gets a bunch of ice cream. Listen, it all connects. Don't worry about it.
No judgments on your snap judgments. Okay, well, that is going to do it for this episode of Supergirl Radio. If you would like to contact Supergirl Radio, you can post a comment on our website at supergirlradio.com. You can email us at supergirlradio@gmail.com. You can like us on Facebook and follow us on Instagram and X, all at Supergirl Radio. And if you like what we do, we encourage you to give us a rating and write us a review on Apple Podcasts. Supergirl Radio is part of the DC TV Podcast and Multiverse of Color Network, so go give those a subscribe, follow, like, all the things. You can hang out with us. I am going to try this again. You can hang out with us as we go live and wired on Tuesday nights at 9 p.m. Eastern on the DC TV Podcast YouTube channel and the Supergirl Radio Facebook page. DC TV Podcast also has a TeePublic store. So if you're in need of new DC TV or Superman or Supergirl related t-shirts, tank tops, sweatshirts, magnets, tote bags, pins, phone cases, pillows, or stickers, go to supergirlradio.com and click on the TeePublic store link at the top of the page.
And since these 2 episodes of My Adventures with Superman featured Brainiac and Candor, we have some science designs in the DC TV Podcast TeePublic store that we would love to suggest.
Yeah, there was a mention of Candor, and I wasn't really sure if Candor was the place where Primus Brainiac lived. I wasn't real sure, but there was a mention of Candor. So the design that we have in the TeePublic store is technically Brainiac 5, but he is part of the Brainiac family. So if you're interested in that, we do have some cool merch in there if you want to check it out. And we recommend that you do. We have some good designs in there. We would also like to thank our Legion of Super Sponsors for supporting the Supergirl Radio Patreon. These people are Michael, Anne-Marie, Yvonne, Nicola, Abby, Miriam, Nicole, Brian, Ethan, Danny, Majuba, Zachary, Annie, and Rachel. And if you would also like to become a Legion of Super sponsor, you can go to patreon.com/Supergirl Radio. And if you would like to keep up with me, and I forgot to put the super sponsors on the video screen, so I'm going to do those now because I feel like they deserve it. And if you would like to follow me and catch up with me, you can follow me on Vero at Derby Kid. Vero is my favorite social media platform. Share what I'm reading, what I'm watching, what I'm listening to. So if you're over there, you can check me out there. And I'm on Instagram at @the_Derby_Kid, and I'm also have a personal YouTube channel at youtube.com/duckmilkprod if you want to follow me there. I'm also about to take a trip to Ireland. So if you want to see some of my travels, you can go to follow me on social medias at Oasis Broom, and you can see some of our travels there. I will hope to create some new content as I venture over to Ireland for the first time.
I can't wait to see it because I've actually been wanting to go to Ireland for quite some time. So I get to live vicariously through you, and I get to like slowly trip plan as I see where you're going. I'm like, oh, that looks nice. Jot it down. Jot it down.
We're going to be staying in a castle. Very excited about that.
Oh, that's very fancy.
We think we're not pronouncing this right, but it's Drumlin Castle. It's probably not the correct way to say it. But that was one of my requests was, can we stay in a castle? And so we're doing that. And I also really like Irish music because you get to yell and bang on things. And so I'm very excited about that. Hopefully we'll get to catch some live Irish music while we are over there.
Well, I need to get to Ireland because it's the only part of my my genetic makeup that I haven't visited my home country for. I've been to Italy, been to England, but I haven't been to Ireland. So it's on my list. So I'm gonna ask you so many questions when you get back.
Well, hopefully I'll have so many answers and I'll be able to tell you everything.
You're going at a nice time too because it's so hot here. It feels like I'm dying every time I step outside. But I think it's going to be nice and cooler there.
Yeah. I'm pretty excited about it.
And you can catch up with me on Twitter and Instagram at Mojotastic, and you can also find me as a co-host on the Legendary Ladies podcast at the Legendary Ladies on YouTube and Instagram. And we the ladies just did a whole episode about a pilot pod about the superhero show The Boys that's on Amazon. And I think that we are going to be talking about the Kat and I, the new season of The Bear on FX. Yes, chef. So you should subscribe to the podcast and check us out on YouTube.
Very fun. I keep up with all pop culture through the Legendary Ladies. I'm like,
We like to bounce around now.
I don't know what I don't watch usually the things that y'all are talking about.
You're just like, now I know about them,
which is pretty typical for me because I never really watched the stuff y'all were talking about anyway.
You knew so much about the Legends of Tomorrow, never watched an episode. Now you can know a little bit about everything that we're talking about. It's great for if you also like Rebecca don't want to watch it, this is great for like a water cooler conversation. You can pretend that you know something about a pop culture thing because we've watched it. We'll tell you about it.
Yeah, very informative show. Well, that is going to do it for this episode of Supergirl Radio. But until next time, I'm Rebecca Johnson,
and I'm Morgan Glennon, and we can't wait to see what happens next for my adventures with Superman's version of 𝙈𝙾.
McGurk! I love typing.
Not mess with my Google Docs, Meeksy.
Supergirl Radio is going live every night of the week. How do you like it? Is becoming a human burrito a plus or a minus? I don't know. It does seem snug.
I mean, they say you are what you eat.
Kira. I love that.
So I do a podcast called Supergirl Radio, and one of our segments is 𝙈𝙾 𝘼𝙙 boardroom or ballroom because
she looks like a boss in this coat.
Nasty Luthor like a different Luthor? It's not just Lena being mean?
No.
Helen Slater here. So fun to know that you're hosting a podcast called Supergirl Radio.
Yeah!